I'm sure you're all familiar with Log4Shell, and chances are that it ruined one of your weekends or evenings back in December. But the recent Spring4Shell, of course, reminded us that this was a one-off, but new vulnerabilities getting discovered constantly, putting your applications at risk. My name is Robin, and today I would like to show you in a short demo how Dynatrace can help you protect your applications against such attacks. I have here a quite simple example, currency conversion application that is using Spring and is deployed on a Tomcat web server, so that makes it vulnerable to the Spring4Shell vulnerability. So as an attacker, I can send specific ready-made requests to this endpoint to install a web shell. So I have two requests that I have to send to override the built-in logging mechanisms in Tomcat and generate a JSP file that allows me to execute remote commands. And there's a 500 error that is printed here, but this doesn't matter. It's just because I didn't submit kind of the correct form content, but it still installed a new file on the server called shell.jsp, which allows me to run commands. Now I can pass in a parameter, and for example, I could figure out who's the current user on that server. So this application runs under the Azure user. I can also now maybe have a look at and see if this user has sudo rights. We can see it does, so no password required, can execute sudo commands. So of course, now you have a lot of possibilities to exploit this vulnerability. And of course, to mitigate it, now we know we need to upgrade our Spring version. And if I switch over to Dynatrace, this is also what it tells me. It has detected that we have a vulnerability in Spring Beans that was discovered, remote code execution, meaning that I need to go and upgrade the library used in my Tomcat application. But of course, it takes me some time to do that upgrade, and in the meantime, I'm vulnerable to attacks using that vulnerability. And if you think about it, that Java 9 came out a couple of years ago, and Java 9 introduced this vulnerability. And in the meantime, before it became known publicly, some people might have known about it and being able to exploit it to get access to the command line of your servers. And since Dynatrace is monitoring all your transactions, of course it's a good opportunity to see what happens in those transactions. Is there any malicious kind of execution being run? And this is exactly what attack detection and blocking does. So if I switch over to the attack section here, I can see that there were a number of attacks run against my different applications. I can see where they come from, and we see all the details down here. So we have here, for example, the last two are the commands I just run against that shell.jsp that was installed. So let's have a look at the details of one such attacks. We can see where it comes from, that there's a specific entry point, which is that shell.jsp that was installed using the Spring4Shell vulnerability. And then we can see that it executed a command, so it's a command injection on that specific server. And we can see it detects that a specific payload by the user is then passed to runtime.exec, so being executed on the system. And of course, this is never a good sign if the user can directly pass something that's being executed. So that then is detected as an attack, and we can also see it correlates with current logs. But now, of course, we don't only want to detect attacks, but it would be nice to be able to actually prevent them from happening. And if I switch from monitoring to blocking mode in application security, I can actually block such attacks, meaning protect my applications from being exploited. I'm just going to save this. So now switch to the blocking mode, and if I go back to my exploit here, so my shell.jsp, now I want to run another command. So the attacker wants to see, for example, what is in the current directory, executes this, and now there's an internal server error, and we can see here that there's actually an attack that was detected, command injection, and it blocked that specific transaction, so preventing this a command from being executed on the server. And if I go back to Dynatrace, look at the different attacks. Just going to refresh here to see if I already detected the newest one. Probably take a second to show up here, but it will actually show, as we see down here, that it not just detected this attack, but also blocked it. And this, of course, is quite powerful because now it protects your environments against zero-day vulnerabilities. So meaning that detecting any kind of injection, so it supports for command line SQL injection in JNDI, for example, and can help you protect your applications against those attacks before those vulnerabilities are being known to the general public.